We get in the car. On the weekend, we go cruising. We're like, oh my God, there's another green Civic. So we go out of our way to pull into the same gas station to go talk to this one guy in the whole entire world that has the same car as us. Anyway, a few weeks go by, there's another car, but that's not the first car that we saw. Another week go by, we realize that there's a green Civic around the corner. My point being is once your eyes are open to something, see it more.
Hey, Shoshana, so good to have you here.
Thank you, Ella. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Yes. You know what? I don't know why, but I just thought, let's start with a lightning round. Are you up for that?
Let's do it. Get me warmed up. Oil my foot.
Man, that's what I say to myself every time I go to yoga. It feels like I'm oiling my joints, right? So yes, let's get you oiled up. Okay, 5 questions. If you knew it was your last day on Earth, at least in your current body and lifetime, I have to put that in there, what would you choose for your last meal?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I would want like a tapas style picnic with my kids and my husband at the beach. So whatever beautiful plant-based bounty comes my way, that's what I would have.
Beautiful. The first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
Gratitude before my feet hit the floor every morning.
Do you have any regrets?
I do, but I know that they've helped me learn and live better.
So are they still regrets?
They're lessons.
Mm-hmm.
I've turned my regrets into lessons, so maybe no.
Got it. Okay, a quirk or fun fact that most people might not know about you.
Okay, I hate when there's any stickers on bananas other than like the banana sticker that has like the number on it, when they put the organic tape all around it and the gross paper at the top to make it from turning yellow. It grosses me out and it's totally disgusting. And everybody in my house knows they need to remove it for me as soon as I bring it.
I love this. Okay, if you could gift all humans one thing, what would it be?
Just amazing mental and physical health, because from there they can do everything and anything else they want to do.
And that's a great segue into your story. I would love, I think your story and the story of your husband and how plant-based living really infiltrated your lives is really fascinating. Would you mind starting there? I'd like us to kind of go through your journey and along the way kind of make little pit stops and explore deeper as we go, if that makes sense.
Sure, no problem. So jump in anytime. It is a story filled with pit stops for sure. A lot of people know that the first 15 years of my professional life, I was a kindergarten and phys ed teacher, which was super fun and exactly right for me, exactly in that moment. And it was a great job to, here in Canada, have children and be on mat leave and all of that. And while I was pregnant with my second child, so I had a 1-year-old at home and I just became pregnant with the little one, Adam, my husband, had a pain in his chest and his arm, and he thought he was having a heart attack at the ripe age of 36, 37. So he went to the hospital. They did a whole bunch of tests and they said, no heart attack, you can go home now. But a few weeks later, the phone rang and we were basically told that he had a tumor that looked really scary. They thought it was malignant and we needed to escalate things and go into surgery and all of that. And it didn't really sit well with Adam because we were young, we were thin, we were athletes, and we thought that we ate a lot better than most of our friends. And we thought that we actually ate a really good, well-rounded, healthy, clean, standard American diet. And for us, that's exactly what we should have, we knew we should have been doing at the time, without much evidence, that's just what you did. And then he started to ask questions like, well, why is this tumor growing inside my body? And then from the tumor, we found out that there was heart disease starting as well. So why at this age is there a tumor? Why at this age is there heart disease? It doesn't run in the family. It's not indicative to our lifestyle, or so we thought. And he started to ask a lot of questions and do a lot of research. Well, we found out indeed that the tumor was benign, thank goodness, but he was still left with the heart disease. And we had lost a friend a couple of years before who went out to play floor hockey and had a heart attack and left behind a young family. And Adam really didn't want to, he didn't want that to be his story. So through his research, he found prevent and reverse heart disease and Dr. Esselstyn, and he decided that it was time for him to go plant-based. And he came home one day after asking for more meat. Why are we having so many vegetarian meals? Asking for more meat. He's like, I'm plant-based now. And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, well, I'm vegan. I'm like, that's some kind of vegetarian, right? I didn't even know what vegan 100% was. And he's like, I'm not eating any more animal products. He's like, here's the reason. He didn't shove it down my throat, but he kept showing me the research. And, and then we started to realize what was going on in the whole world, to be able to get animal products in our home, in our cars, on our sofas, on our plates, and all of that. But he decided that he was done. And I was an overwhelmed young mom. And I said, well, I don't know what else to make you. So you'll eat fish once a week and chicken on Fridays like a good Jew, and we'll move from there. But Friday came and he couldn't eat the chicken. So he went completely plant-based and he felt great. He lost a lot of weight, which looked weird at first, but it was a normal body weight. It just wasn't heavy, but it just wasn't what we were used to seeing on people. And then I had finally lost all my baby weight going vegetarian over the course of the next 8 months. And we were both feeling really good and had lots of energy. And after a year, his doctor looked at his arteries again and said, the heart disease is completely gone. And then he went back for another follow-up with the oncologist, and he said, there must be some kind of mistake because the tumor is shrinking. What were you doing? What trial study did you do in the States? What were you smoking in Mexico? Anything, but he was willing to accept anything but diet. But it was all about the plants. So from there, we really took a good look at our life and said, what types of things, what types of toxicity are we bringing into our life to cause us to age faster than we should, for our body to break down faster than it should, and for disease or disbalance or dis-ease to be happening within our bodies. And we made a lot of changes. And that's when we started the Plant Trainers podcast, because we wanted other people to never be in the situation that we were in. Families look a lot of different ways. Some have children, some have pets, some are partners, some are individuals, some care for elderly parents. We just wanted other families to never have to go through what we went through. And should they already be in that situation, to really have the tools and the information and inspiration to reverse things the way that we were able to do with Adam.
And what about the kids? How has that been for them? Transition?
They were quite young. Sage was about 6 months old. So that meant that Russell was about 2.5. Russell had just become gluten-free because he was allergic to gluten, not celiac, but allergic to gluten. So he'd just gone through changing his diet and then figuring out what else are we going to cook. But actually, Adam was really good about it. He's like, you got enough on your plate? I'll figure it out, right? Like, I'll eat all the side dishes, and if I need more, I'll make more. And, things happen for a reason. There was a chef in Toronto who wanted recipe testers, vegan chef. So Adam somehow connected with him on Twitter, and we ended up doing recipe testing for him. So that was a new way to just be excited about making new meals. And of course, I love vegetables. So his meal was my side dish, and my side dishes became his side dishes. But the kids, I was vegetarian. Adam went overnight. I was about 8 months vegetarian, letting go a few things at a time. And the kids kind of were a little bit behind me in that vegetarian transition. And then it was about an extra 5-6 months that they were just eating eggs and a little bit of cheese sprinkled on some food here and there. Enough, so little cheese that I kept it in the freezer because I wasn't going through it fast enough from the fridge. And then it was just time to let it go. And it's just what they knew. They knew that they had to bring their own cupcakes to birthday parties. They knew that they had their own pizza. Either at the time I had to send them with pizza because there was no pizza at the regular pizza places that you could order vegan. And they kind of liked it that way because while they were waiting for everybody else to pass out the cake, they had their own lunch boxes. They just ate their cupcake as soon as the candles were blown out. So it was just their way of knowing things. We were very lucky in terms of the way our family worked, and the age group worked really well for us.
The other question I have is, a lot of people that go vegan or plant-based for their health, a lot of them end up falling back into eating animal products. What do you think was it about your transition and Adam's transition that kept you moving moving forward so powerfully on that path that you found actually some purpose, like life's purpose in it, and went so far as to, have a podcast around it? Right.
So there were a lot of things. Adam's very black and white, and he's just like, let's do it. And I'm a rule follower. So I'm like, we've decided this. So, like, this is what we're doing. And I don't want to upset Adam, kind of thing. Not that I ever wanted to go back, but he was very patient with me as I made my transition. But the evidence was just so hard in front of our face. His heart disease went away. He had this fear of what happened to his friend. He was a hockey player, happening to him, right? Getting on the ice, your heart rate's going up and down and up and down. You're frustrated with your teammates. You're fighting with other teams. Like there's a lot there. And then the tumor shrunk. So the evidence was just so hard. My baby weight went away. I was able to, for the first time, to be rid of acne in my whole life since teenagers. It ended up coming back for other reasons, but it was the first time that I had clear skin. It felt really good. And we very quickly ended up in the spotlight. So once we started the podcast, there weren't many plant-based podcasts 8 years ago. So we started getting invited to speak at health fests. And before we knew it, we were opening for Gregor, opening for Esselstyn. And it was like, okay, well, this is just our life. I never really had to grapple with, but I want something else, but what will people think of me? But I was kind of in the spotlight that I'm like, well, I can't let people down by having a piece of cheese. And the reason I say that is because when I finally made that decision, I think it was like a May 1st kind of thing. I said, the summer's coming. And if there's a cheese platter, I'm not going to buy the cheese, but if there's a cheese platter, which is my weakness, I will have a few pieces of cheese if I want it. And my birthday's in November, and I like steak on my birthday every year, a nice steak, and I'll just have that steak and then go back to normal. So I allowed myself the ability to be flexible if I needed to be, but I never did again. Yeah.
Got it. So you didn't put that pressure on yourself of this has to be or all or nothing.
Right.
But that allowed you to just move forward with it being all.
Yeah, personally, I didn't have a lot of pressure, but I guess I did maybe feel some pressure just from being in the spotlight.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you've got the podcast, you're moving forward in your life, things are good. What's next on what was the bump in the road?
Okay. So, as we started to build the podcast and as our lives started to change and we started to help people, just like not unofficially started to help people and see their changes, we really decided that this was something that we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to jump in and help people. So I got nutrition certifications, and part of that was also for the kids. It was okay for me it was still so early. Like this is like, he made this decision before Forks Over Knives, right? So it was okay for me to mess up my body by not eating meat, but it wasn't okay for me to mess up my kids, right? And I'm saying that sarcastically for those listening. Nobody's going to be messed up, but that was my way of thinking. So I got nutrition certifications. I got lifestyle coaching certifications, and I started to love doing that. And I left teaching, and teachers in Canada make $100,000, right? We pay a lot of taxes, don't get me wrong, but it's a good paycheck coming home for 10 months. It is and it isn't. But walking away from that and thinking that, hey, I'm going to jump into health coaching and my podcast and I'll make that back and double it. Yeah, that didn't happen at the beginning. So I was stressed about being an independent, strong woman, but not being able to support my family independently. I was staying up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, writing copy and working on sales because I had no background in that whatsoever, and waking up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to do all the things, the journaling, the meditation, right, all the things that you're supposed to do to be a good entrepreneur. And I was burning it at both ends, but I was also still dealing with some mental health issues and some PTSD from Adam's situation, thinking that I will lose him or I will lose something at some point. And all of that together played a huge part on my body. I had been on antibiotics my whole entire life, just about some years, 12 times a year. I'm pretty sure I was allergic to dairy. So ear infections from the time I was 3 weeks old. I was 23 years old, married, working full time. I had to take a week off of work for double perforated eardrums. Adults don't get ear infections that often, but I did. Strep throat, sinus infection, all the immune issues, all the pus and mucus was always happening to me. So I think my whole gut was still off. And, they say you are what you eat, but you are what you ate. And it's not just what you ate physically in terms of food, it's your emotional well-being, it's the environments that you grew up in, mold or metals or anything that you've been exposed to your whole entire life. So although my health did improve at first, it really started to unravel with the stress and anxiety and all of that coming on after. So I was left in a place with huge hormonal issues, DHEAs, adrenal, cortisol. I had really bad inflammation throughout the body, especially my wrist and my shoulder, but I couldn't feel anything throughout my arm. And over the course of the year, I tried everything. I did 3 different naturopaths, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, chiropractor, superfoods. Because of the podcast, I had access to some of the biggest and greatest nutritionists and doctors. And I would say, these are my symptoms. This is what I'm already doing. And they'd be like, well, I don't know what else you should do. For what I knew, I was doing it all and then some. So by the end of the year, I was sleeping almost 18 hours a day. My kids were late for school every day because I couldn't get up in the morning to get them to school on time. So I was signing them in late. I had to read the same sentence 8 times over. My brain fog was so bad to even get some information from it. I was falling asleep at the wheel. I was falling asleep at red lights. And that was a big wake up call to me, but I didn't know what else. I didn't know what else to do. Nothing I ate was processed. I was meditating. I was doing yoga. I could do yoga, light yoga and walk. But if I tried to run, if I even lifted one set of weights, if I did reps, 24 hours, my whole immune system would be blown and I'd have a full blown cold. So I was just, I unraveled. I completely unraveled.
I can only imagine. I mean, I've been through some of my own health challenges here in the last couple of years, but to be eating the way you were eating and for having it worked so well for so long and doing all the things and meditating and, sleep hygiene and acupuncture and all the alternative medicines, and you're doing all this work and still struggling just to get through the day. I mean, wow, what was going through your mind at that point?
A lot of negative self-talk. So you're a fraud. You're helping other people. And for some reason, they're getting all of these amazing results, but your tools that you know so well and that are working for them are not working for you. So how dare you show up and help other people when you can't help yourself? So a lot of that, and I hadn't worked for almost a year, and most of it was because I couldn't stay awake and needed to take care of myself to at least take care of my family. But some of it was a lot of that, like, who am I to help them too? So that was huge. It was dark for a while. Like, I had been through dark moments before, and it was really dark for a while. I was like, do I just need to check myself in somewhere and just sleep for days straight? I Sometimes my mind didn't even work. Like, yeah, what was going through my mind was, what can I possibly do to not screw up my kids? Like, how can I just give them their mother back? Because again, I was the perfect student, following all the protocols properly, and nothing was working. So it was scary, because, and I see this all the time, right? I'll get messages from people that'll say, I don't understand. I've been plant-based for 8 months. I've been plant-based for a year. I've been plant-based for 3 months. Everybody else in the Facebook groups are saying this happened to them, and they snapped their fingers and they were better, right? They ate a piece of kale, and they were better. I've been doing it longer, or I've been doing it better, or I've just been doing it. And how come I'm not getting those results? So yeah, just a lot of that. But the truth is that not everybody gets those results right away, but the people who do scream the loudest. So we hear them. So it's not to say that this is definitely the best way of life, 100%, but it's not necessarily going to be the complete answer for everybody, because we are what we ate. Yeah.
Explain that.
Different people.
We are what we ate. So what made you bring that up?
Well, because, why wasn't all of that working for me? Because I had been on antibiotics for so long. So I have dead sedentary antibiotics sitting in me, toxicity sitting in me, dead cells that were probably never taken out of me, because I ate dairy for so long and was probably allergic to it, because I was the kind of kid where I was every mother's dream. You put food in front of me, as long as it wasn't shellfish, because I was allergic, I would eat it. But I would eat any vegetable cooked anyway, but I would also eat every Oreo stuffed every way. So, and gut bacteria from eating that way, and from antibiotics. And I was still on antibiotics 3-4 times a year when all of this was happening. So, it's just, my body got tired. My body stopped talking to each other, to itself. My body stopped. You talk about fight, flight, but there's fight, flight, or freeze, right? And my body was really just in freeze. My adrenals were shot. They were shot, and the healing that should have been taking place in my body wasn't. My hair was going gray at such a young age, and yeah.
So what happened next? I mean, you were at a loss at that point. So what turned the corner?
And I was also sitting on a really big ego, right? Like, I was like, but I know everything. But I didn't necessarily know everything, but I didn't know that there were things that I didn't know. So my husband's friend, who he worked with, the family's very well known in our area. The parents were doctors in Russia. When they came to Canada, they became naturopathic doctors. So I think that's kind of like really the best of both worlds, especially because the medical system here is not like it is, overseas. And so she introduced this, I'm going to call it a supplement for this time in the story, introduced a supplement to us. And we just thought it was another, like, okay, take your turmeric, or take your B12, or but it was something completely different. So when I knew who the family was, I was like, this has to be something different. This is something that I do need to look into, because they're the miracle makers in this area. And I started to, I said, okay, tell me what you're talking about, because they wanted my athletes to do better. They wanted, my people with diabetes, all the diseases, they wanted them to heal better. But I'm like, but I do that with food. But then I kind of said, but what if this is my answer? So I said, sure, tell me about it. And what I learned is that inside our cells, that are little sacs of salt water, we have our mitochondria that is creating many different things. It's creating our ATP, it's creating our energy system, and it's creating something called redox at the same time. And these redox molecules, they reduce the oxidation in the body, but they are the messengers of the body. They communicate between the cells to say, there's a problem with the adrenals, there's a cut on the finger, there's a scar on the face, and they're responsible for sending the proper healing. And when the healing's done, to stop the healing from happening. And it's the intercellular fluid that we have lots of when we're born. And every 10 years after puberty, we're making 10% less. And that's why, young kids have really tight skin. And although Ella and I, we're doing really well, not everybody is blessed at our age to, have skin like we do. We start to get wrinkles and all the things. But what made sense to me is my body's not communicating anymore. My cells are not communicating anymore. And that's why all of these other techniques and all of these other therapies that I'm trying to put into my body are not happening, are not taking place like it does for everybody else, because my body is so fritz that it's just in freeze. Everything was in freeze. So I heard that the molecules were 100% non-toxic. There's no lethal dose. It can't interact with any medications, not that I was on any at the time. And just that it can never hurt. Nobody's gone to the hospital for it or died because of it or anything like that. And I said, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on other therapies. What's another couple of $100? Let's go. And well within the first 2 months, I started to notice that I was waking up to the alarm. I was putting my feet on the floor again before the kids, like in time to get the kids to school. I was starting to read again. I wanted to blog again. I was excited about the podcast again. I was able to drive without falling asleep. And things just slowly started to say, hey, it's getting better. Hey, it's getting better. Hey, there's hope for the future. And things started to really progress in a positive way. And there was significant difference within those first 2 months. I went back to the naturopath. She couldn't understand how my adrenals had gone from over 35 to a 17 on the adrenal scale. She'd never seen that happen before. So it wasn't like fixed completely, but the progress was just amazing. And before I knew it, I was able to be doing hits again without having a full-blown cold. And, my hair stopped turning gray because the cells in my body were so happy and healthy and absorbing all the nutrients again, right? Like we stop absorbing nutrients when our cells are just trying to keep us alive, trying to just keep our lungs breathing and our heart beating. We become depleted because we're not absorbing, and all my iron levels went back up. All these wonderful things started happening again. So that was really my saving grace. It was me getting off my ego box, getting off my soapbox, and saying, there's more out there that I don't know about. And if I don't try, then what, right? You miss 100% of the shots you never take. I owed it to I always say, like, I owed it to Adam, I owed it to my kids, but the truth is that I owed it to myself, right? I owed it to myself to try. And from there, it just, it's just been incredible. And it was like discovering plant-based nutrition all over again. You could call it the miracle of plant-based nutrition. It's not a miracle, right? It's not a miracle. It's just doing, and the body doing what it's meant to do. It's amazing what the body does when you fuel it with the proper foods. Well, when you refill your cells with its own intercellular fluid with zero toxicity, so you could start to detox the old medications that never left your body, so that you can balance your gut flora, so that you can break that brain-blood barrier, reduce the oxidation, blow up free radicals, right? Like when your body's working properly, it knows exactly what to do on its own without needing ingredients for everything, where you could be allergic to ingredients or there could be contraindications between them. It was just a really, really amazing discovery for me.
And I think this is so important also to kind of highlight the empowerment piece of this, how you, yes, you kind of acknowledge your ego and then you put it aside and you said, well, what I'm doing now is amazing. And it's what helps a lot of people get super healthy, and it got me healthy. However, at this point, there are things that I don't know. And how can I open the door to discovering what this solution is for me? And you kind of open the doors in your mind to saying, there's something out there. I don't know what it is, but I'm open to finding it. And you found it. And so this is really intriguing to me as well, having gone through something very similar last year and having gotten to a place where my body was just not feeling like my own, even though I was eating an anti-inflammatory, vegan, healthy, whole food, plant exclusive diet. And I was training and doing my yoga and doing my meditating and all that thing. And my body just didn't seem to be, like you said, like there was something about it that wasn't cooperating within my body. And I know stress for me is big, but also, yeah, thinking about all the toxins in the environment that we just can't avoid no matter how careful we are in this world today that is so polluted, that is so toxic, right? Like there are things we can't avoid.
There are things that we can't avoid, and we can do the best that we can with our nutrition, but some of it's still going to, like, either we can't afford it, or it's not, or organic's not available, or organic still has some toxicity in it as well. There's mold in the walls that we might not know, like, not to scare people, but like there's mold in the walls. We're breathing things in. I lived in Hong Kong for 2 years. Like, you have no idea what the smog is like there. So there's just so much that we're exposed to on a regular basis. And the truth is most of us do live a life where we're going to have, maybe it's vegan, but we're going to have, the ice cream every now and then, or we're going to have the cookie every now and then, or, we're going to have a glass of alcohol, right? Like, it's hard for most of us to be perfect all the time too. Yeah. So knowing that there are things that can help your body maintain communication, maintain detoxification, keep your electrolytes up without having to drink all this sugar. I don't know what word we're allowed to use on your podcast.
Whatever you want.
Stuff, sugar crap and whatever, right? We're still going to be exposed to things. And then the more you're exposed to, the more your genetics stand up. So even if you eat all the kale in the world, like, if your family is more predisposed to this, some things that you're out of control of can still make that happen. Or if all the healing's trying to keep your heart from clogging up, well, then what about your adrenals, or what about your kidney function, or, what about the gout in your foot? There's something eventually starts to go, unfortunately, not with everybody, but
Sure.
with a lot of people. And you know what, it's funny to say not with everybody, because a lot of my clients came to me because they had somebody in their own life who they wanted to help. And my clients, I'm talking about post issue that I had. So in the last 5 years, they come to me and they're like, oh, I'm concerned about my husband's this or my husband's that, or I never thought I could work with you because I was never willing to go plant-based, but what do you have now? Or I've always been plant-based and I'm still not getting enough results. What do you have now? So we're helping the partner or the spouse or the parent, or the sibling, and they tell me that there's nothing wrong with them. But then if they start following my protocol too, and I check in with them a week later, 2 weeks later, or maybe a month later, and they're like, oh yeah, I used to have to lift my foot to get into the car because my hip hurt me so much. Or, I always had these cuts and they never healed. Or I would get headaches 5 times a month, and now I'm not getting them anymore. We all have things that we're living with that we just think that's just our age, or that's just what happens in my family, or that's just what it is. And you learn to be used to it and to live through it instead of be depressed in it and, get worse. But when they start to melt away because the body's working so much more efficiently, like that's the best. That's just as fun as helping somebody who has, a huge disease going on, who really needs to make improvements in their health.
Yeah. So it sounds like plant-based living is like a foundation, right? However, some people aren't ready to go there. Sounds like you're really meeting people where they are. And you called it a supplement for now. So let's talk just for another few minutes about what this actually is, what this Redox actually is, and how it helps people.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it is a supplement and it's been put into the supplement category. However, the only way that most people know supplements are ingredient based, right? We're getting more vitamin D, or we're getting our turmeric or our iron, right? Or whatever it is, St. John's wort, whatever kind of supplement we're using as medicine, or because we're not getting it in our diet. But again, when we're born with these big, beautiful cells, and then the body naturally starts to break down. So every 10 years, we're making 10% less of that intercellular fluid. But then if we're living really great lives and eating all the vegetables and meditating and being out in nature and moving, the outside layer of the cell is going to stay nice and thick. So, 10% every 10 years, for you, it might be 8%. For your father, it might be 12%, right? Because you live different lives. So, he's losing it at a faster rate than you are, let's say. But what happens is you're exposed to all of these other environmental factors. So your cells really do begin to break down. And this supplement is not something that we ingest to utilize, because when we take food in or ingredients in, the body needs to break it down. We need to create enzymes and break it down and absorb it and all of that. This gets absorbed directly into the cells the second it touches your cheeks. So for scarring or fine lines, the second it touches my skin, it gets absorbed, and those cells are becoming nice and full again. And then the whole body starts talking. It cascades through every cell of your body. So even though you're putting it on your face from, let's say, scars or wrinkles, your ankles are getting the benefit too after a hard day of volleyball or martial arts or whatever it is that you're doing the day before. Now, these same molecules are in the body to help reduce inflammation and to help repair cells. Its main job is to detect, repair, and replace damaged cells and protect the healthy cells. So if you have a sore muscle, or if you have bone on bone, or if you've got a ligament tear, by putting more of this redox back into the body, these redox signaling molecules back into the body's going to repair itself faster. It's going to reduce the inflammation. You're going to have better range of motion. It's not going to hurt as much. The ligaments are going to start to repair faster. I've had so many clients come out of casts weeks early, 3-4 weeks early, because their redox levels are high. They're over 60 and they're coming out of their cast 3 to 4 weeks early because the body's just working so much better. Every single cell in the body has this. Every single piece of tissue in the body is made up of cells. Every organ in the body is made up of the tissues. So if we can get down to the most root cause, yes, when we look at plant-based nutrition, root cause is we're putting inflammatory foods into our body. We're putting carcinogenics into our body. Therefore, inflammation and damage splitting cells are happening because of what we're putting into our body. Absolutely. That's our foundation. But even take that away for people who are still maybe eating those foods. The redox signaling molecules are even more foundational because we make them in our body and they are part of the cells. We cannot live without air. We can't live without oxygen. Our cells can't live without redox. If there's no redox, the cells die. If the cells die, we die. So this is even more root cause. You never have to be 100% plant-based eater to be able to put more redox into your body by supplementing it. The only other way is through exercise. You still have a limit of what you can replenish, but you can't exercise 24 hours a day either. So, so whether you're plant-based or not, they can be separate, right? They can be separate. So like myself, at the beginning, I had a lot of clients who came to me and said, I don't understand. I'm doing all the things. I've been eating plant-based. I'm meditating. I'm writing in my journal. The toxic people are out of my life. why is my autoimmune disease still keeping me down? And I would be like, well, it's not going to sound too professional, but I'm taking this stuff. And if you want to try it too, let's see what happens. And boom, like amazing things happen. So there are a lot of people like me where plant-based just wasn't enough. But there are a lot of people who said to me, I can never work with you because I'm not willing to go plant-based. That's not for me. My blood type doesn't support it, or my lifestyle doesn't support it, or my partner would divorce me, whatever it is, whatever reasons they have. Fine reasons. I had them at the beginning too. I was just like, what, are you crazy? But I had them too. But now all of a sudden they can feel, everybody deserves to feel good. So they could have more energy. They could sleep deeper. They can reduce inflammation. They can use limbs the way that they've never been able to use them in 5-10 years again. And when they do feel better and their mental health is better, when they do feel better, what happens is I start to get emails saying, oh, I haven't had red meat in a few weeks. Oh, I haven't had chicken either in a few weeks. Oh, I found this amazing kale recipe. I've never made kale before in my life. When people feel better, they start to make healthier choices. And you cannot deny the power of plant-based nutrition. And it's all around. It's not like it was 10 years ago. It is all around us now. So when they do feel better, they want to make better choices too. So you get people moving more, you get people outside more, you get people eating better. And then they just come into a balance in their own life and find things in their own time. So it's really nice to be able to kind of have that. It's not even really a yin and yang, but it's those two real parts of what we do in our life to make our body better, but what we actually can do to start at the very most foundational level of our cells and refill it with something that is not possible through food.
Are we going to start seeing this? I mean, it just seems to me like, there's all this talk from longevity experts and, around rapamycin and different kind of biohacks and different medications. Why aren't we seeing this yet more in the mainstream? And are we going to, what are your predictions on that?
So 7 years ago, Adam and I decided to get rid of our cars. We still have cars, but we had really, really old cars. One car was 17 years old. One car was like 11 years old, and it was time to get new cars. So we pull into the dealership, and I'm like, I have no affiliation with Honda, but I'm like, babe, Civic, get a Civic. And he's like, no, Civic's for kids. I had one when I was a kid. I'm like, no, they're really nice now. Get a Civic. Anyway, we pull in. He's not getting a Civic. There's a beautiful Plant Chainer's green Civic sitting with like spoilers and like whatever like kit at the bottom. And he's like, dude, Civic. He's like, must have green car, right? Like perfect for our branding, like perfect for everything. And we're like, and nobody else has one, right? Nobody else has one. This is going to be perfect. We get in the car on the weekend, we go cruising. We're like, oh my God, there's another green Civic. So we go out of our way to pull into the same gas station to go talk to this one guy in the whole entire world that has the same car as us. Anyway, a few weeks go by, there's another car, but that's not the first car that we saw. Another week go by, we realize that there's a green Civic around the corner. My point being is once your eyes are open to something, see it more. I've had so many clients come to me and I'll be like, I think this has to be your next step. Are we going to take this step? And they say yes, or they say no, or they say whatever they say. But then they go to their chiropractor, or they go to their nutritionist, or they go to their naturopath. And then they come back to me and they're like, guess what I saw in your office? I saw the blue bottle. And you will see more of it. You will hear more of it. The Redox world is expanding. It's expanding quickly. Right before COVID, there was the 19th annual Redox, Redox convention. In 1996, there was a Nobel Prize given for the understanding that redox wasn't just a discharge byproduct of creating ATP, but it was actually needed in the body for the communication of electrons, for the communication between cells. So There have been 5 other Nobel Prizes given since then. So it's a new part of the body that we are now only starting to understand. I mean, it's been with us for the moment in time, but for our understanding, it is still quite new. You're going to start seeing it and hearing it everywhere. And what a lot of companies are doing now are creating biohacking products, nutrient supplement products that are helping the body reach its redox potential, right? Waking up, your phone has so much battery, or your phone has so much memory, but it starts to like die over time, right? Like you have to plug it in so much more. Well, what if you can get it to go back to that 100% charge and make it last 2 full days like it did the first time you use it? So a lot of these other products are like boosters for it. It's like those little battery packs that you can put on the computer, on your phone, to give it that extra charge. You don't have to plug it in, but it's like a hack, right? There's lots of that coming out. It's great. It's helping the outside rim of the cells to stay in better shape. It's giving a boost to certain systems within the body. There are universities all across North America and Europe that are recreating this redox signaling molecule that I'm talking about. Nobody else in the whole entire world has been able to stabilize it so it can actually be shipped and delivered to your house so that you can take it. I get on the phone all the time with biochemists, with pharmaceutical people who own or work in pharmaceutical companies. They know what redox is. They know it can be made and put into a vial. They know within 10 minutes, it's going to turn back into salt water. They know that. People are now finding out that it can be shipped and delivered, and the benefits that the test subjects are getting in these universities can now be gotten at home with, just by working with the right person, being told how to take it, when to take it, what to change as you go, using the topical gel, drinking the liquid. That, again, it's not about the digesting, it's about the absorption. You're going to hear more about it. You're going to hear redox in general, but this is the only way to actually put more redox into the cell.
Got it. So eye-opening. I think this is going to be so valuable to everyone listening. They're going to want to know more about it, how to find you and this product and learn more. Can you tell us how? Sure.
So please feel free to check out shoshanachaim.com, ShoshanaChaim, like mother, .com. You could find out all about me there and reach me there. Also very active on my personal Facebook, Shoshana Chaim, but on Instagram. Instagram, you could search Shoshana Chaim or Plant Trainers. There's 2 T's in the middle there. And we answer all of our own, Adam and I, mostly I answer all of our own messages and all of that. So you'll get us, and you will get confidentiality as well.
We will put all those in the show notes, of course. Shoshana, thank you for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your story. Really appreciate you. So glad you came on.
Thank you, Ella. And thanks for all that you're doing for the community. You do such good work and such great coaching. I'm very honored to be here today.
Thank you.
Hey.